today. How this all came about was me asking Mike to help train our employees for towing and safety in the electric vehicle area. We just had not had enough training and education. And Mike, of course, said, yes, I'll help you, as he always does. And he has agreed to host us today with many educated people on this call, graciously of their time. We've all volunteered to put this together today. So take it away, Mike.
Well, hopefully you all walk away with a lot of knowledge, things that you have to know in the near future as far as EV and EV towing. Many of you know me as Mike the Tow Guy, and yes, I've semi-retired at this point, but I'm still active in the repossession industry and do a lot of education. And I still go and I do the best I can on getting around and seeing people and trying to help them with their with the problems they're having and issues they're having with cars and trucks. I would like to introduce my mentor, who I've known since I've been 16 years old, Joe Rossman. Joe Rossman has been in the automotive industry for how many years there, Joe?
Almost 40 to 50.
40 or 50. And Joe's known as the car doctor. He also has a radio show in Cleveland, Ohio. His co-host is Andy.
No,
Andy has.
My co-host is David Whitey.
Say it again.
Go ahead.
Okay. Andy has approximately 12 franchise stores and has been involved with the EV electric cars since it's actually started. So I want to, that's as far as what we're doing. You know, those are the people that pretty much be speaking. We also have, not here yet, it's supposed to be a gentleman that does training across the United States from the Automobile Club of Southern California. The gentleman, Ramon, has been in the tow truck safety for approximately 10 years and knows a lot more than I do as far as electric vehicles. I would like to point out that everything we're showing you changes day by day. Anything that you've learned today is different than it is tomorrow. And we want to make sure that we do understand that you have to go back to the manufacturer to find out the proper information. Joe, you had an independent car repair shop in Cleveland also, correct?
Yeah, I was in the independent repair business for 30 years.
Okay. And you kind of like got out of it before the electric cars came in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
then Andy took over. Andy, you met Andy through some other friends. But Andy, that I understand, Andy, how many years have you been doing electric vehicles now?
You know, we bought, I ordered the first hybrid Escape in 2003 in the Cleveland market, and I got the very first hybrid Escape in 2005. We then used that as a test mule to start learning on how to repair and diagnose and work on the hybrids, and went right into the EVs after that. We started our Hybrid One division of our company back in 2005, so 18 years now. But, you know, probably the most important thing you said so far, Mike, and what anybody can listen here, we got to go back daily to pretty much what the manufacturer's saying on that day and when we're going to service any of these vehicles. And we're very fortunate with the internet and cell phones, we can look all of that up pretty darn easily today.
Yeah, but you really, thank you for bringing up the internet, because that's one of the things I will be talking about later. The internet gives you a lot of information, but when you go into YouTube and you go into car manuals, and you go to manufacturer websites, I find out that a lot of the YouTube stuff that you have, 90% correct. It's not 100% correct, because every year they change, and you really have to go to the actual car manual, or what is called is all data, which only repair shops actually have. Towers, repossessors don't have that type of equipment as kind of testing. Do you agree with that, Andy?
No, I totally agree. And I guess I referenced internet, and what I meant by the internet is going to the manufacturer's recommended procedures. And you're right, the internet, there's a lot of good, bad, and ugly on there, and some of it's ugly. So you can't trust just the internet, but you can trust the manufacturer's recommendations.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into, can I go back one slide, Rachel? Let's go into the actual, the meat and the potatoes of this seminar for this next hour. You will see there we have listed as far as what type of equipment that you have to have for electric cars. Example, when you go to jumpstart an electric vehicle, you just cannot jumpstart electric vehicles. You have to have special equipment, and our slideshow later will show those. Our slideshow later will show what type of equipment you actually got to have. We also have what is called cloth bridles. I do know that fact is you cannot put a chain from your vehicle to your tow truck. This usually causes, and a possibility causes, a power surge, static electricity. And power surges, as Andy, I'm hoping you can give us a little more information on power surges as far as computers, because you're the guy that would know that type of stuff. Have you run into problems when somebody goes and jump starts an electric vehicle and they use a battery charger, which would, by doing that, causes a power surge that can damage a computer in the vehicle?
In the early models, it was more prevalent. They've gotten better at protecting the systems from that. But yes, we get constantly, being the go-to expert in the Cleveland, Ohio market, we constantly get vehicles that's been 1, 2, 3, 4 repair shops, and nobody knows what's wrong with them, and they were improperly tried to be started or tried to be repaired or tried to be jump started, and they went out and they blew up many circuits within the computers. And it's unfortunate, you get some of the cars and the repair is more than what the car is worth. So you literally got to sometimes scrap the car. So it goes back to, as we've been saying, follow manufacturer's procedures all the way. But it does happen. Static electricity is bad.
Very costly. So, and Rachel, can we jump past Rachel? Can we go to the skates, which is, there you go. When you're picking up, especially on a flatbed, you have a EV vehicle, Tesla, BMW, all the manufacturers, the wheels are locked. You cannot get 75% of these vehicles out of park. The skates that you're looking at can be bought in any tow truck facility. They make them in 4-inch wide up to 12-inch wide what actually happens is you can take the car and as you're winching it onto your flatbed, put the skate down, the tires, front tires or rear tires, will jump onto the skate, and then you use a bridle on your frame of your vehicle, and they will slide on these skates. This is preventing problems with transmissions, differentials, and also getting the car on your vehicle. A lot of times you will see that your repossessor will call you, or the repossessors are out there, I can't get the vehicle out of park. There are tricks that you can get a good percentage of these vehicles out of park. Just as an example off the top of my head, you can go into the front bumper where the tow eye hook is for a Tesla. And there's a place that you can put a lithium jump and carry onto it. They can actually take the vehicle out of park, but you have to refer back to the manufacturer, the actual book in the car, the dealership. You just can't go in and start trying to put 12 volts to the systems, because these electric vehicles have more than 12 volts. Correct, Andy? I don't know what the volt, when you, besides 12 volts, there's another voltage the cars actually have. Do you know
Well,
what that is?
Well, it depends on the vehicle you got. You could have as little as 140 volt hybrid drive battery or regular electric drive battery, but you always have a 12 volt reference battery, you know, to operate the subsystems. In a Tesla 3 you're talking about, that little jumper allows you to unlock the door and then put it in transport mode. You know, and every vehicle has a version of that procedure. Because technically, if the 12 volt battery or the house battery, we call it, is dead, you can't even open the doors. You know, that's why Tesla does the little jumper behind the tow eye. But again, every manufacturer is slightly different. But the part about the skids also is, even if the wheels are unlocked, almost every single wheel on a hybrid or an electric vehicle is a motor generator. So if you're turning the wheels when they're not supposed to, you're actually generating current. So that's why everybody wants these flatbedded, don't turn the wheels. And I'm sure you're going to get into tow dollies and everything else in here. But, you know, again, all this is readily available and it's common knowledge, but doing it incorrectly can be devastating. Very much so.
Very much. Rachel, next slide. Cloth bridle. You'll see there, I'm sorry, cloth strap. On the strap that you see in front of you, you see 2 metal hooks, cloth in between. This is by using cloth, you're not putting metal on metal to the electric vehicle. So you cannot cause any type of spark, any type of surge, any type of damage to the computer system of the vehicle. This strap can be used several different ways. You can go through the tire. You can go through the lower suspension. You can go when you have your safety chains, when you do your 4-point tie down, because all vehicles towed must have a 4-point tie down. And you take this type of strap to your chain to your truck. So if you'd imagine where the 2 pieces of metal are, you put your end of your hook there for your safety chain. You do not have metal on metal. It's a big thing. No metal on metal. Next one, Rach. The next one is a cloth bridle. On the very top of the bridle, you have a red hook that would go to your winch cable. And then you have your cloth strap. And then you have the hooks on the bottom that go to the frame of the vehicle. Frame of the vehicle. You really do not want to go to suspension. Suspension parts bend on a lot of the new cars. You'll notice there's 3 different types of little hooks on the bottom. There's 3 different types because you can use that. Goes, if you look at the manufacturer, crawl underneath the car or go into the actual manual of the vehicle, you will see that the car does have 1 inch, 1.5 inch holes underneath that are supported, extra steel, so you can pull that vehicle up onto your truck. The next slide is what is a specialty item. It's mainly for BMW and Jaguars. Back up one. You skipped one there. There you go. Jump around, jump around, jump around. You got it now. The bottom of your screen, you have a loop. You'll see there's a hook and a loop. That can go to the lower control arm of a Jaguar or a BMW. The upper piece, where it has the red D ring to it, that's what goes to your winch cable. Being a tower in California, we have run into problems where you tow your flatbed of BMW or Jaguar to the dealership, service writer comes running out and starts taking pictures of where you're strapped to. That'll cost you approximately $300 for an alignment if you don't use the proper hookup and the proper bridles for these vehicles. This type of bridle that you have there runs about $200-300, but it'll save you the first alignment you have to do if you tow that vehicle into a dealership. Car gets repossessed, debtor picks up vehicle, the debtor goes, car pulls to the right or pulls to the left, takes it into the dealership. Next thing you know, your client's involved with the debtor about an alignment or a suspension problem.
So Mike, where do you hook that on those two, the BMW and Jag? Is that going through the tire?
You're actually going through the lower control arm. Lower control arms in the cars are a triangle, and you actually have to grab the triangle inner side. There's a place for that strap, especially on the BMW. And they also have in the manual of the BMW, it shows that strap. You have to be, a lot of towers are now qualified BMW towers, or they also have specialties for Tesla towers. Next one, Rachel, is a universal strap. Universal strap, we know that this is the strap that you guys have been using for the past 30 years. This strap works on all manufacturers, which is Jordan, Miller, Dynamic. And you have a hook on one end, it loops over the tire, and it goes to your drawbar to attach the vehicle. I have you go back to 4-point tie down. A winch cable is not considered a tie down. Once the vehicle's either driven up on your flatbed, or once it's tied down onto your flatbed or tied down onto your wheel lift, you have to have 4 points. dolly towing. When you do dolly towing, whatever wheels that are on your dollies also have to have a strap on it. This is a universal strap. It also works on a dolly, any manufactured dolly. The strap's rated at, off the top of my head, around 3,000 pounds or 3,500 pounds. And they got to be in good condition. If one of these straps break, you can use your dollies going over a large hole. And I know that you have dollies come into your shop and the repossessor goes, I don't know how that piece of steel got worn out on the bottom and it's nice and shiny because he's been driving down the street and he didn't use, and the dollies came apart because he did not have the dolly straps to your tires, your vehicle, and then also 4-point tie down to your vehicle. OEM front hook. On all the newer vehicles, there's a square, usually 2 squares. And I see Mark Lakesix there, and that also works on 18-wheelers. There's an eye hook on the front, and the eye hook on the front screws into the 2x2 square you take off using a pocket screwdriver. Do not lose the small square. Don't let the small square hang on the piece of plastic. Take the small square off and put it in your truck. On those bumpers, that little small square only runs about $30, but then you got to get paint to match. Never want to lose a small square. You take the small square off your front bumper, the eye hook will screw into the front bumper, or if it's a big rig, there's a big, I think it's a 1/2-inch eye hook that you can unscrew and screw in, where you can actually pull the vehicle onto your flatbed. AAA is not here. Their suggestion is
They are here.
always use the
He's
eye
here.
hook. Okay. Ramon, I'm sorry. How are you, Ramon?
Oh, I'm doing good. My apologies. Well, the invite went into my spam folder, so I did find it finally.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And how long you been on? Or you just started?
Maybe about 10 minutes.
Okay. And for being a retired guy, how am I doing?
You're doing great.
Okay. If I mess up, you got to speak up. Okay, Ramon?
I will.
And Ramon, you've been with the Automobile Club for how long?
21 years.
And you've been in charge, you're out of Texas and you've been in charge
Right.
of tow truck safety for how many years now?
I've been in charge or supervising it for 6 years now. So up until 6 years ago, I was driving tow trucks.
Okay. So the ins and out of towing, you know a lot of.
Yes, I wish I knew it all, but every year manufacturers surprise us with new cars, and that's more learning I have to do.
It's a constant, like I was saying in the very big beginning. What we talk about changes when you hang up the phone.
Yes.
The education that is needed is ongoing. And Marcel will give you information on the very end of different websites you can get on, that it doesn't take long, but that information will save you lots in the long run.
Yes, knowing the information is important because now I'm seeing damages in the $1,000 range and rarely ever below. So knowing where to hook up at, where to load at, where to tie down are all important.
Okay, now we have flatbed towing. I've covered a lot in the flatbed towing area already. It is times, okay. I've covered a lot in the flatbed towing already. I want to make it very clear. You do never put a chain to your vehicle without using some type of cloth, preferably a cloth rider or a tie down cloth. You can ruin a computer. And Ramon, you've seen some of these, haven't you? As far as computer problems?
We have, it's, for whatever reason, they have power or a charge going between the car and the truck. It can damage modules, computer components, even the electric motors can be damaged by the chains. So whenever possible, avoid those chains. Earlier, Mike mentioned the T-hook, mini J-hook, the R-hooks. Make sure you know where you're putting those. I think everybody's heard of the Ford Mustang Mach-E, where one of those hooks was misplaced into the battery casing and damaged that. It's a very expensive repair. So knowing where to place these is important as well. Again, just avoiding damage is the main purpose.
Because you have a lot, you're dealing with other things. You're dealing with transfer cases. Besides dual motors and the wheels, you have transfer cases you're dealing with. That's why those skids come in so handy. Using those skids, less pressure as you're pulling the car up onto the vehicle. One thing that we found out a lot that works real well is using a biodegradable type of soap. Example, you have a bottle of Joy liquid dish soap. You take the dish soap and you put it near the front tire or whatever. I'm sorry. Whether you're pulling the car up or down, all four tires, put a little dish soap and a little bit of water, and the car will slide on it. Same things as slides on oil, like an oil film on the streets. You have less pressure on the transfer cases, the dual motors, the drive shafts that go transverse motors. It works great. It really does. Try it, but it's got to be biodegradable so it doesn't leave any type of stains, because you don't want to have to come back and have to clean the driveway or replace the driveway. I've noticed on some repossessors, they pick up a car, there's skid marks on the driveway. They ask me to go to court, and I go, you don't want me to go to court because I can see right away that there's 2 skid marks down the driveway, which means the car wasn't put on dollies. So the ivory soap works really good. And I've already mentioned the winch cable is not considered a tie down. We already talked somewhat about the 4-point tie down. Lithium battery jump boxes. We'll touch that. I have a slide on that we'll get into in a little bit. Your next slide is your wheel lift towing. Wheel lift towing, same thing with the soap. You have, and Andy spoke about the emergency bypass to open the doors. Andy touched base a little bit on the getting the vehicles out of park. There is different procedures. Some of them, and Andy will agree, some of them are involved. We got to take a center console out, to spend an hour getting to a little wire that's down underneath with a little hook to pull it up, to take your shifter and get it out of park. Do you have to go through that? It's talking to you as being educational. The manufacturer says you have to do this. It's your decision whether you do it or not, but also remember the consequences on what you're doing in your actions. So I think we've covered everything on the slide here. Your next one is post repo, post towing. The vehicle's back at your shop. This is Andy and also Ramon will agree with me. Well, hopefully agree with me. The changing of the information, and Joe also, the information about parking electric cars next to each other that could cause a fire or cause something to go bad in a computer. I have not actually seen this happen. I've not actually testified in court yet that this has happened, but manufacturers, there's recalls. There's recalls on cars that should not be parked in garages. Why? There's recalls that cars should not be parked in a garage. And I mean, Ramon or Andy, do you have any information that you know of that this stuff is true?
Yeah, there's stories about that happening. And the main thing is, I believe it happened most of the time on the high output chargers where you're in a confined space and you can't dissipate the heat for the high charge. So they have to run a battery charging strategy that monitors that. And I think the recall was all about the charging strategy and how hot the battery can or cannot get. Again, that's evolved where I think that's a misnomer anymore, but it did happen. It has happened.
Andy,
And
I think the battery got into a runaway mode and it just kind of kept heating itself up and discharging or charging and just ran away and got too hot.
That's where the problem happens. These cars
Yeah.
get into thermal runaway on the battery packs, and the battery pack is itself what's causing the fire. Until that battery pack can cool down, it won't go out. Usually I hear it with wrecked cars, but recently Ford had it happen at one of their facilities with the Lightning because of the battery pack had some imperfections in it, and one of them went into thermal runaway, taking out about 10 cars. So it is something that at least the manufacturers are aware of, and they're trying to resolve as quick as possible whenever they run across them. But it is more on the wrecked cars we're hearing it than the ones that are out there just everyday driving, or they're plugged into a charger when we hear about it.
and in chargers and Rachel, let's go skip a page. Let's go to the next page. You'll notice you have some chargers there. I'm going to go to number 5 on your picture with the big X on it. Don't use it on an electric vehicle. This is a battery charger that you'd find in a repair facility that not only will cause a surge, it'll definitely blow a computer. The proper way to charge a battery. Now, why do you want to charge a battery? Well, okay, car has been sitting for 2 months. You towed it in your facility. You have to deliver it. Some of the guys have transportation, they deliver the vehicles. You got to get the car started, got to get it out of park, got to get it on the flatbed. The only way you can use this battery charger is disconnect the negative post first of the battery. Make sure it's a 12-volt battery. There are on a lot of electric cars, if not all of them, have 2 batteries. Some have 3. Mercedes, they have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 different types of batteries in their vehicles. Don't use, so if you're going to use a battery charger from your office, disconnect the negative post, disconnect the positive post. Go ahead and charge the battery in low charge. The only problem is when you get done doing that, if you go to the picture 3, picture 1 and picture 3. This is a brand that you can plug into your OB2, which is a plug underneath the dash. It has adapters for it that can actually, you go in and reprogram your computer system of your vehicle. Will it do all the reprogramming? Maybe yes, maybe no. Is it your responsible to have the reprogramming done? In the field that you're in, I don't know, yes or no. The other thing we use is item number 4 is number 4 has, you plug it into your jump and carry on one end. The other end goes into your computer underneath your dash, OB2, and that'll hold the memory if the memory's still there. But the car has to have, am I correct, Mr. AAA? It has to have so much voltage in there, and it had to be saved before you do this procedure, or you just wasted your time. Is that correct, Ramon?
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay.
I
mean,
just want to touch on the batteries as well. The 12-volt batteries on this car, you do want to look, is it a lead acid battery or a lithium ion battery before you charge them? They do charge at different rates.
It could be a glass mat battery too on the older ones.
You are correct. And some of them have the new enhanced flooded battery, which is a combination of the two, of lead acid and glass mat battery.
Hey guys, what about those old memory keepers that used a 9-volt battery that plugged into the cigarette lighter? Is that a yes sir or a no?
I would, and I'll answer it unless somebody has a better answer, but I would say no. The 9-volt memory keepers are right at the bare minimum of maintaining the memories, and you just don't know when it's going to fail. If it fails within, say, 3 minutes, you've just lost all the memory that may be on the system. They actually recommend either your jump pack, which is usually fully charged, or a memory saver device that you can recharge. The only challenge with the memory saver device is it doesn't always tell you what its charge level is, and if it falls too far below, it stops recharging. You have to take it apart, put it on a battery charger, and recharge them. So for AAA, we kind of lean towards the jump pack because everybody maintains them. They take good care of them, and when they start getting into that iffy stage, you swap them out.
Agreed.
And then that's why you got number 2 on your slide. Number 2 is
Which are
pretty
awesome.
much fares. I mean, we have found that this is it. If you hook it up wrong, for example, you have your red and your black connectors. You hook it up wrong, you get a buzzard. It won't do anything. It won't let you make a mistake. Then on the other hand, you do it right, it'll start an 18-wheeler. And I didn't believe it, but that little battery pack in number 2 will start a diesel truck. It also comes with a flashlight built into it. It also has adapters that you can plug into your truck, same as your computer. You can has an adapter to it, so you can plug it into your computer and charge it as you're driving. But the booster pack is a fail-safe booster pack. Yeah, they were about $200. But what if you got a Tesla in park or any of the manufacturers, There's a way to get the doors open. What if you put your jump box in the wrong place and hook up the wrong wire? You cannot do it with this little jump and carry here. It will not let you reverse polarity. It won't cause any sparking. I found this personally as a fail-safe. Tony, you seen any like this also? I'm
Michael,
sorry, Andy. Andy, you've seen these also, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Actually, that number 2 is our go-to one. We have at all the shops.
Okay, and Ramon? Ramon,
Yeah,
how do you
surprisingly, and I hate to support a particular product, I would always say go out there, look, see what's out there. But this product is remarkable. I own 2 of these. I love them. As Mike says, they'll jumpstart a big rig, and that's what I've used them when I was out there running calls. It's a little device, easy to recharge. Pretty much you can't do anything wrong with it, really. It tells you. It's a smart device. It's worth the money, in my opinion.
what happened with the old jumper boxes that had a little 12-volt lead acid battery in it? They were kind of the old design. Do they still work, or you want to go with one of these new lithium ion ones?
They're still out there. They still have value. It's again, it's what's preference. These lithium ion things weigh maybe 10, 15 pounds. They weigh next to nothing, maybe less than that. Whereas your standard jump pack is a little bit heavier with that 12-volt battery with it.
Right.
The problem is those old ones don't have the fail-safe systems built in to make it dummy proof. And the cost of a mistake today is thousands of dollars. So this is a worthwhile investment to keep from having that cost of mistake.
And that's the biggest, is if you just accidentally touch positive to negative, negative to positive, and you just barely get that little spark, it could already be thousands of dollars worth of damage. It just happens so fast.
And then your driver is going to go, "Oh, I didn't do that."
Right.
It's just impossible. Yes, you did. And then you got to argue about it. The jump pack that Joe's talking about, that did phenomenal in its day, but then it's, they weigh about 15 pounds. So when you drop it on these new fenders, they scratch the paint, they dent the paint. These little lithiums, you can actually, I didn't say this, you can actually start the car and run it off the small lithium to move it around. But I didn't say that. But you never know when you got to move something. And repossessors, even towers, they're going to do whatever it takes to bring the car back. That's what they get paid for.
Right. And that's where you want to look into the brands. Some of these lithium battery pack, they only tell you to leave them on for 30 seconds. Whereas, again, this brand is very reliable, and they have a broader range of what it can do versus other brands.
Okay, I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to push this through. Next slide. Who's an expert? If you go into court, one expert says one thing, the next expert says the other one. Who's right, who's wrong? In my opinion, we're not experts. In my opinion, everybody on this panel is not an expert. Everything changes every day. Knowledge is power, gentlemen and ladies. That is where it is. Do your research. Please do your research. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Joe Rossman from Cleveland. When you go, car doctor or something? What are you? What kind of doctor are you? You're a doctor of motors, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah.
And for the last minute, Andy came on. I want to thank Andy for your expertise. Also, Ramon for letting, I called a head honcho over in AAA, and Ramon got roped into volunteering his time. I want to thank you so much for that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
And I want to thank ARA for keeping me in mind and didn't put me in the closet with the old dirt. And there you go, Marcel, it's all yours.
Mike, we had a question about the soap and using that on somebody's driveway or on their property. And how would you go about not using the dish soap if you didn't have to? Obviously, so somebody can't slip and fall.
It is, the source is, if you're going to use it a little bit on the deck of your truck, you're going to get a couple drips on the driveway. But if you don't have your skates and you cannot get the truck on top of the vehicle, you can maneuver the vehicle by using biodegradable soap. I have never heard ever biodegradable soap causing any kind of stains. The stains are there. Now you're talking about slip and fall. Slip and fall in Los Angeles, everybody has to carry a little sand. Towers in the snow, mud. You got to keep, don't you have 25 pounds of sand in your trucks or 10 pounds of sand where you can just put some down and sweep it up? It depending what the circumstances are.
You use the soap and water on the deck of the truck, not the driveway.
In the deck of the truck, you can actually put it on. I've used it and put it on the driveways. The reason why that is to get the right position of the vehicle to my flatbed instead of making skid marks on the driveway, and especially driveways that are colored cement, and you can't get the grease out of it because grease or oil will stain.
We had another question, which I know you all touched on earlier, and you did as well, Ramon, about parking vehicles next to each other and how this changes daily. But who would like to address that question, like for long-term storage, as far as us storing the vehicles on behalf of the lenders?
I have a question for that question.
Yes.
Is there anything in writing from manufacturers saying you cannot park an electric car next to each other? I
So
haven't
whoever
seen
asked that
anything.
question, if you could reply. I'm not aware of that, Mike, but let's see if they type an answer.
You play it safe. Don't put electric cars next to each other. You're not going to have a problem now. One thing I didn't talk about is, okay, you want to charge up the electric car. You just can't charge the electric car up. You have to make sure that you have the right 110 outlet. If it calls for a 30 amp breaker on your building or a 20 amp breaker on your building, but you got to use the manufacturer cable. You cannot interchange from car to car to car. I've read that.
That was one of the
Agreeable?
questions, Mike, if we have to have the source to charge the EV when the debtor comes to redeem at our lot. When it loses its charge.
Okay, and Andy, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Andy. You gotta use the manufacturer's cable to plug it into your 110, correct?
Well, yes and no. There are universal cables that'll go on all low amperage chargers, that'll plug into a 20 amp regular 110 outlet. We just basically put hybrid battery chargers at all of our locations that have the universal plug. I do not have a Tesla charger at each one of our facilities yet. They just haven't been coming in yet. As you know, the East and the West Coast are a lot more adaptive to the EV than it has been in the Midwest here. But using the factory charge cable that came with the car by far is your safest bet. But any one of the good standalone battery chargers, EV or hybrid battery charger, you can put on your building is fine. We use a 30 amp 220 circuit. You know, that's on our buildings. That's not the highest voltage. I mean, they make a lot more than that for the rapid chargers. But if you go in the middle of the road there, you'll be at least be able to plug those in and charge them up while they're sitting on your lot before they get delivered or picked up or whatever.
Hopefully that helps, Marcel.
Yes, and they did answer that they're not aware of the manufacturer not recommending the vehicles be parked next to each other.
I agree with Mike on that. I have never seen anything in writing about that. But as we know, rumors and innuendos in the industry go hand in hand. So, and we've seen the pictures of the fires. You know, that lightning fire that was at their own storage lot, you know, at the manufacturing plant that lit those 10 trucks up. You
And
can't
Andy,
have a
that was
runaway
Ford. That was a wrecked Ford vehicle, you said?
No, that was a Ford, brand new Ford Lightnings. They had a battery issue. They had vehicles ready to be shipped, sitting in a storage lot, being charged. And one went bad and it literally took out, I think, a row of 8 or 10. You look at it, if you Google it, you'll find the video of it. It's out there. And that's what put the stop to them shipping the Lightnings. But, you know, going back to probably to wrap this all up, just follow manufacturers' recommendations where you're hooking the car, how you're hooking the car, how you're popping the doors, how you're doing the charging. It'll keep you out of trouble if you just do what the manufacturer says. It's your first line of defense. I did it exactly the way they told me to do it.
Right. The only time I see parking the vehicles next to each other as an issue is when the manufacturer backs it up. It's when they're wrecked. They say give them a little room, and there are guidelines on the manufacturer's page what to listen for to identify thermal runaway, to know that this car may be going into that before it happens too. But it's like a preparation just to keep the area clear in the event that would happen. And I've only heard it on the wrecked vehicles, not your standard everyday drivability vehicles.
Did you guys see the article about the Corvettes, the hybrid Corvette? The Corvette Association banned them from going to the racetrack, and if they were going to the racetrack, they had to keep them so many feet away from another car and everything else. And they backpedaled on that. They said, "Wait a minute, this is a factory car. We can't make them do that." So they did backpedal on that EV Corvette.
Right, I heard stories on it. I just hadn't had the chance to go look it up.
Tony from AAA provided what you guys see on the screen right now for training. And looking at all of it and going through all of the training, the National Fire Protection Association, I feel, was the most friendly for repossessors. It also is free of charge. So thank you so much for that, Tony. The CTTA is holding, if you're in California, tomorrow, an in-person training for EV vehicle towing and safety in Anaheim. And the link is on here as well. You'll see it, California Tow Truck Association. But thank you so much for that, Tony. They're all extremely informative. I just feel the National Fire Protection Association addressed the repossession industry the most, and it was easy to get through and easy to understand, audio and video. Did anybody else have any other questions? I'm not seeing any in the Q&A. If you do.
I think we all just need to understand that, like Mike said before, there's no experts in this field. We're all trying to share information in forums like this. So somebody knows something, somebody else doesn't know it, we kind of share information.
There was a comment in here about a Tesla burning for 12 hours. So Tony, can we ask you if your experience has that been with AAA, has that been with vehicles that are wrecked, where you're seeing that where they're not spaced properly? Like you said, when there's damage.
No, 1 second. The car, there was a car on the freeway, Tesla, fact, because I had a discussion with the fire department the other day. Down in, I think it was Orange County, if I'm not mistaken. Car caught on fire. They could not put it out. They had to wait until they put foam on it. They tried putting it out. It had to come down to a certain temperature before it would actually, fire would actually go out.
Right. And to give you an idea, I mean, some of these fire departments are reporting upwards of 10 to 30,000 gallons of water to even get them to cool down enough to get it under control. So a lot of departments are taking that stand of just letting them burn.
And then now it's toxic waste. Now you get,
Right.
now you get your toxic waste off your lot.
Right.
Yeah. You just can't, you cannot throw the car away. A battery is
and-
toxic waste.
I read a Tesla owner who has this car stuck at his house because of that reason. He can't get anybody to take it away because it is toxic waste, and hopefully Tesla will pick it up, but it is a challenge.
I don't see any more questions in the queue. We have one more minute, guys. Anybody that,
I just want to say thanks to Michael for inviting me here. Michael's been a longtime friend. He worked for me, and because of where he is, he came into me one day and he says, "Joe, I want to own half your business or I'm leaving." And I said, "There's the door." And he went to California with nothing. He put his tools in his truck and said he left. He left his wife in Cleveland, and he started, and he's become a very prominent businessman out in California. And I applaud him for that.
Joe, he's done nothing but give back to our industry and built his business from nothing. So Mike will always help us in any way that he can. He's been here for our industry for many, many years, and gives of himself and his family so unselfishly, just amazing. So we are grateful for him and everybody on our webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kathy just pointed out to me, she wanted to make a comment. There is a lot of misunderstanding without knowing the specifics. So take that to heart. There's a lot of misunderstanding without knowing the specifics.
The American Recovery Association will be posting a video on the website that Mike did when he was here at our office doing our on-site training. And the links will also be posted on the American Recovery Association website for the training sent to us by Tony at AAA. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.